Well, hello everybody. I hope everybody's having a good night, weekend, and or week, depending on when you see this. But I have another review. I've been backed up on my reviews just by the sheer fact the storm we had here in southeast Texas has put me a little bit behind. But I wanted to go over something that I thought was pretty exciting, especially at the price point. It's a knife my wife got for me. This is going to be the American-made Gerber Sharkbelly. Now this knife right here, as I mentioned just right before, it is an American-made knife. I do really appreciate American-made pocket knives, and this one is a prime example. It's inexpensive, and yet the quality seems to be there. So far I've carried it for the past week, and I really like it. I almost don't know it's there, but I'll get to that in a second. What we have here is the Gerber Sharkbelly. It retails for $39, but on the Walmart website, you can find this knife from anywhere from $27 to $29, depending on what the price they have. Sometimes it fluctuates a little bit, and you get a little bit of variance depending on the day of the week and where you live. In store, they did have the placard that listed it as $27, and the other two Walmarts pretty close by didn't even have it in stock. So, this is a 3 1/4 inch 420 HC steel. So yes, it is an inexpensive steel, but it's an inexpensive knife. It's a $27 knife that's meant to be an EDC, but I'm going to tell you, it's a really good looking knife. Now, the blade is listed as a modern drop point on Gerber's website. And as you can see, if you take a look at the overall profile, you're going to tell yourself, but that's a sheep's foot. And you would be right. It's pretty close to a sheep's foot. It's not a Wharncliffe design, because on a sheep's foot you get the bend over drop point, where on a Wharncliffe design you do have the point come out. The point would be exaggerated because the difference is a Wharncliffe design is a self-defense knife meant for penetration, and a sheep's foot is the opposite. It is a work knife that is meant not to have that over penetration. They say that sheep's foot knives came out of the fact that mariners over 100 years ago would carry knives with that almost blunted end, so that on the ship there was no accidental punctures when they were working with knives. So, a little bit of history on the sheep's foot that I had read about. The shark belly knife. Why is it called the shark belly? Well, some people theorize, because I've read a few things online, and I begin to agree, that the overall texture, look, and feel of this knife is almost part of that shark and ray family. You get the muted gray color that's almost that what you would consider shark skin. You get the texturing of shark-like skin. It's very grippy, yet still a little bit smooth. You have the texturing here, that's an offset texturing on the bottom of the knife that's really nice, and on the top you have subtle jimping. So all in all, when you think of a shark, you think of that muted, textured sandpaper type feel. And it almost is like that, but it's not that G10 sandpaper feel. This is definitely a smoother, because this handle is glass-filled nylon. It's not G10. It appears to be one piece, and what I can tell you about this handle, it's really nice, because if you look, and when I put some pressure on this, it doesn't pinch. It doesn't pinch like some of the Gerber orders that I've had. The Gerber US1, those style of folder knives that are inexpensive, American-made Gerbers. Those you can pinch, and they have that rubbery overlay on the glass fill, and you get more pinch. This one, almost no pinch. Very impressed. Also notice that when it's closed, look at that. The knife pretty much zeroes into and has no blade play east and west. So that's a really nice thing. Speaking of the knife, as far as the locking mechanism, let's take a look at that. This knife right here, it's a little bit difficult to open, so you're going to need to put some oil on it when you first get it. I put 1 drop of oil, but I've been carrying it for over a week in my pocket, and because of that, my oil's worn off a little bit, and it sticks pretty well. You do get the hesitation lock right there. Now that is a safety feature, so when you're closing the knife, you don't pinch your hand. So you do get that little bit of lock. That's always appreciated. That's more of an upscale kind of feel to me. But in the lock position, you get the mid-lock back. Really nice. It has that modern look instead of being the old full lock back here, like the older knives. You get the mid-lock. Just makes it feel more modern. Also gives it less weight and a better look. Look at that. It's a little bit tough to open, but it'll work in. Overall fit and finish of this thing is beautiful. If you look at the blade, it's a matte finish blade on that sheep's foot, and it's a really nice finish. It says Gerber on the front, and I really like this. Made in the U.S., Portland, Oregon on the back. Tells you the 420HC there, and then it's got a model number on it. So let's talk about the positives. This knife right here, $27 US made knife. It is a good looking knife. When they say shark, this does evoke kind of that ideology of seaward rough shark. Now, 420HC and saltwater, probably not the best combo, but when you get down to the price range of $27, you're going to go with a less expensive steel. I wouldn't call it a negative, but I'll talk about that in a minute. Positives, the texture. You get texture on the handle. It's built in, this glass-filled nylon. You get the jimping on the top. So when this knife is in the hand, you can see this is not an aggressive style knife. When you're working with it, you get the smooth on top. So in case you're using the serrated edges, and yes, it does come in a completely fine edge. I've yet to see one in person. They were sold out online, and the more common blade type is going to have your quote-unquote shark belly teeth right there because it is serrated. It can be useful in a pocket knife. Some people do prefer the fine edge. I've come to appreciate both. So eventually I will have the serrated and the fine edge. The pocket clip on this. Now this is a cool design. They call this the zero scratch pocket clip. And I didn't know how I would like it. I'm going to be honest with you. I saw it and I thought, man, that screams cheap. But I've used it and it's awesome. Normal pocket clips that have this angle on them and this much pinch or grab always pull the threads out of my jeans where my pockets have started to shred. This right here is different. When it goes down into the pocket, it doesn't have as much space down there to pinch and hold to pull the threads out, but it gives you the same amount of pressure to keep it in the pocket. And let me tell you, this is a deep carry knife. You can see that when it goes all the way in the pocket, the top of the knife disappears and you don't feel it. At a little over 2 ounces, this thing really does disappear in the pocket. So that's a really cool feature. Again, the fit and finish for an American made knife that's $27, I'm impressed. I mean, looking at this knife, blade play north and south, 0. East and west, a little bitty bit, and you're going to get that just due to the fact that this is a polymer one-piece handle. You will get a little bit of play east and west. Not enough to be concerned about. And the lockup, beautiful. I mean, just beautiful. Look at that. I mean, rarely do you put that much pressure on the knife. You always come back, and still, this knife fits the bill. Again, the centered in the handle, I really liked that. That goes with that fit and finish. And yes, it does come with the Gerber lifetime warranty. You can even put your lanyard on the back here, which I don't think I would go with a lanyard on this style just because it is a little over 2 ounce deep carry pocket knife. Utilize that. What are some downsides with this knife? 420HC steel. I like it. I'm a fan of it. You keep it lightly oiled. It takes an edge pretty reasonably. It's easy to sharpen. Yeah, it won't hold the edge, you know, for 150, 180 cuts. You'll probably get 80 to 100 cuts before you need to resharpen it. Not a big deal because it's an everyday carry inexpensive knife. But some people would want a higher end. Personally, I don't because I don't want to drive the price up. I think $27 for an EDC, you know, $30, $40 price point. I think knives of that range are perfect for what the average person needs. Also, the pocket clip, I did give it praise on the use of it, but it is not universal. You can't flip it. You can see that when it's installed as on this side, I'll just say the right side of the knife, for example, you cannot flip it to the left side. There is no way to flip that clip. And they did that in the process probably to maintain a price point and also to keep the top of this knife a little more rigid, because if you did cut in and put the clip available on both sides, you would probably weaken the top point here. So overall, Gerber Sharkbelly knife. American-made Gerber. I've come to appreciate their American-made lines. They've addressed a few of the faux pas and some of their other designs and some of their other weaknesses. I think maybe they started to listen to us because they've made changes that people are asking for. So, if you're into an inexpensive knife that's an EDC, that's meant for being a work knife, an everyday use knife and not self-defense, give the Gerber Sharkbelly a try. If you go to your local Walmart and you find one in stock, grab yourself one. If you happen to come across the fine edge, man, that's awesome, because right now, like I said, they are pretty hard to find. So, the Gerber Shark. Go out and bite one off. Isn't that ridiculous? Hey, happy hunting, and I hope you find a keeper, shall we say. Thanks again.